أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى عترة الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعجل فرجهم أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Welcome to the second of our 5 talks on thinking it through Qiyamah. We're looking at this in order to, in honor of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, whose shahada we will be commemorating in a few days' time, inshallah. Yesterday we looked at why we fear death, and one of the main reasons was that we didn't truly believe in death. We didn't believe in hereafter. And in order to truly believe in it, in order to get certainty, we will look at some of the proofs of Qiyamah today. So, obviously, we're looking at Qiyamah in the Quran because we've already established that we believe in Allah and we believe that the Quran is the word of Allah. And so we can actually look at the Quran then as evidence to prove that there is a day of judgment. And as I said yesterday, after Tawheed, the most emphasized subject in the Holy Quran is belief in the life after death. And there have been lots and lots of different names given to the life after death, as well as lots of proofs and descriptions. So just looking at some of the names, I mean, I'm just going to look at those names which call it the day of. So there's been lots of different names. So Allah talks about Akhirah, which is the hereafter. He calls it As-Sa'a, which is the hour, Al-Haq, which is the true reality. But I'm looking at the day of. And the reason why I'm looking at the day of is because there are lots of names given for the hereafter which start off as the day of. And this is to remind us that although it is only a day, the day of judgment or the day of reckoning or whatever you want to call it, it is not like the 24-hour day. In fact, we're told in Surah Ma'arij, Surah number 70, where Allah says that it is a day which is the measure of 50,000 years. So it's something to look at. And we'll look at this verse and in more detail in the later talks, inshallah. So Allah talks about in Surah Infitar, He calls it the Day of Judgment, Yawmuddin. And here it's beautiful how Allah actually says, وَمَا أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا يَوْمُ الدِّينِ ثُمَّ مَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا يَوْمُ الدِّينِ. And what will make you realize what the Day of Judgment is? Then what will make you realize what the Day of Judgment is? And this is the emphasis shows that it really is something that we truly will not realize what this day is. Although He tries to explain it to us, we don't have the capacity to truly understand what the Day of Judgment is. Then He says, He calls it the Day of Resurrection, and this is in Surah Nisa, where Allah says He will judge between us. And then in Surah Ghafir, He calls it the day of reckoning, Yawmul Hisab, because this will be the day where the Hisab will be taken, the accounting will be taken. And in Surah Qaf, He calls it the day of threatening, Yawmul Wa'id, where the trumpet shall be blown and the day of threatening will begin. And then in Surah Dukhan, He calls it the day of separation, Yawmul Fasl, because this is where the pure souls and the evil souls will be separated. And finally, in Surah Shura, we have Yawmul Dhulla, which is the day of covering, and also Yawmin Azim, a mighty day. So there's lots and lots of names given for Qiyamah in the Holy Quran. But let's look at some of the reasons why there must be a hereafter, there must be a Qiyamah. One of the main reasons is that the hereafter actually gives meaning to this life. This world, as we said, is a growth for the soul, just like the womb was the growth for the fetus. And here we will be tested and we'll go through trials and tribulations in order to grow and move us towards something greater. So this world is only a stopover. It's not something that we've been created for. We've actually been created for heaven. And Allah actually tells us in Surah Mu'minun, in Surah number 23, verse 115, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أفحسبتم إن أنما خلقناكم عبثا وأنكم إلينا لا ترجعون. What did you then think, that we had created you in vain and that you shall not be returned to us? It's like a painter painting a beautiful painting and then just breaking it and just destroying it. Allah didn't create us in vain. There's a purpose for our creation, and that is that we have been created for heaven. The second reason why there must be a hereafter is the fact that within our fitra we have this innate love of survival. And Allah actually tells us in Surah Taha, Surah number 20, verse 120, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فوسوس إليه الشيطان قال يا آدم هل أدلك على شجرة الخلد. But Shaitan whispered to him, he said, O Adam, shall I show you the tree of immorality? And it was through this inbuilt um, love of survival that Shaitan was able to deceive Adam. And Allah, being the just creator that He is, He wouldn't have put something that is so innate in us if we were not going to survive. He wouldn't have put this love of survival in us if we were not going to continue on our journey and continue once we were created. So the fact that it is innate in us means that we have been created to continue living. And Imam Ali alayhi salam actually tells us, "Oh people, you and I have been created to live for eternity, not to perish. Rather, we are just transferred from one abode to the next." And this is why when we realize that life is not the opposite of death, but birth is the opposite of death. So as we are born into this world, we will die from this world and be born into the next world. But we will continue to live. So life is not the opposite of death. Also, another reason for there having to be a hereafter is the concept of divine justice. And we know here that Allah is just, and the only way justice can happen is if there is a hereafter. Because if you think of an example of a murderer, one, if he is not caught, then justice will not happen. Two, if he is caught in a country like the UK where there is no death sentence, then he will go to jail for murdering, I don't know, so many people. And three, if he is caught even in a country which has the death sentence and he is put to death, this is only one life for the number, and he may have killed so many lives. So true justice doesn't actually occur in this world. So in order to have true justice, you need to have the hereafter. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Zalzala, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره. Then anyone who has done an atom's weight of good shall see it. ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. And anyone who has done an atom's worth of evil shall see it. So this shows that whatever we do, even if it's an atom's worth of good or evil, it will be seen, and that can only happen with the hereafter is taken into account. The next one is where resurrection is proven by science, and here we have in Surah Qiyamah, in Surah number 75, verse 4, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, "Bala qadirina ala an Bala qadirina ala an nusawwiya banana." Yes, we are able to make complete his very fingertips. Now, it's only recently we've realized that people are known by their fingertips, and each fingertip is very, very unique. And here Allah is showing us through science that He will actually complete us back to our fingertips. And then also in Surah Yasin, in Surah number 36, verse 33, Allah gives us the example of how He brings the dead earth back to life. And in the same way, He can bring us back to life. So He gives us this as a sign. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون. And a sign to them is the dead earth. We give life to it and bring forth from it grains so they eat of it. So Allah has given us a sign of the dead earth to remind us that this is what's going to happen to us as well. These are some of the proofs to show that there must be a hereafter, a Qiyamah, from the Holy Quran and using our logic and common sense as well. Inshallah, tomorrow we will look at embodiment of deeds and then continue on our series on thinking it through Qiyamah. Please join me tomorrow. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.